class, we are getting there. We are on Unit 12, which is Rehabilitation and the Nervous System. So we start with talking about the nervous system. Neuron is the nerve cell. It is the basic working unit of the nervous system. Neurons send and receive nerve impulses from the receptors through the spinal cord to the brain. So the difference between a normal cell and a regular cell is the axon and dendrites. Those are the ones that send the impulses. They have little legs that come out from the cell. And those cells are called, again, neurons. The two main parts of the nervous system that cut off is the central nervous system, is what that's supposed to say. And that consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Oh, there you go. And the peripheral nervous system, which consists of the nerves connected to the spinal cord that extend throughout the body. So all those nerves are coming out from the spinal cord and going to the rest of the body, or that peripheria is what we call it, peripheral. The three main parts of the brain, there's lots of parts, but the main things you need to know is the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest section of the big brain, or sometimes referred to as the big brain. It controls thought and intelligence, and it is divided into a right and left hemisphere. The right side controls motor activity on the left side of the body, and the left side controls motor activity on the right side of the body. So it's kind of opposite. We'll talk about stroke here in a little bit and explain that a little bit more. Cerebrum is the second part of the brain. That's what you see down there in the orange and black. It is sometimes referred to as the little brain. It is your center for coordination. It regulates movements and controls balance. The third part of the brain is your brain stem. It contains the midbrain, pons, and the medulla oblongata. The medulla oblongata is very important because it controls breathing, your heart rate, swallowing, gagging, coughing, and vomiting. That's why when somebody has a brainstem injury, often they don't make it, because it has to do with your heart and your breathing. Spinal cord is located inside the vertebral canal. It is connected to the brain. It conducts messages between the brain and the body, and it controls reflex activities such as eye blinking. The brain and the spinal cord are protected by bone, and they are surrounded by cerebral fluid and protected by membranes called meninges. So you can see that spinal cord runs in between the two different parts of the vertebrae. Peripheral nervous system, we have 12 cranial nerves and 31 spinal nerves. The cranial nerves are direct aspects of the senses, and they deal with hearing and balance. And the spinal nerves transmit messages from the brain to the spinal cord and the spinal cord to the brain. Peripheral nervous system is broken into two different types. Somatic nervous system, which helps with conscious movement of the skeletal system, and autonomic nervous system. And then the autonomic nervous system is broken into two parts, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Parasympathetic works to conserve energy and relax and to slow body functions, and the sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. So when you have an adrenaline rush, that's coming from the sympathetic nervous system, which is a part of the autonomic nervous system. And back to parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is the one part that settles you down after you've had that adrenaline rush. We have 5 senses: taste, smell, hearing, sight, and touch. And those fall under the nervous systems because it's the nervous system that allows us to do those things. Cranial nerves are for taste, smell, and hearing, and sight. Peripheral is for touch, or spinal nerves. Sensory impairment is common in elderly population. Some people have hearing loss or vision loss. Other changes in the nervous system due to aging is their reflexes are slow, some memory loss, especially short term, diminished sense of touch, hearing loss, sense of smell, taste, and vision weaken. Some disorders of the nervous system, cerebral vascular attack or accident is a CVA. That's the medical term for a stroke. That is when blood supply to part of the brain is blocked or a blood vessel leaks or ruptures within the brain. So there are two different types of strokes or CVAs. You have an ischemic, which is the most common, and that's caused from a blood clot blocking an artery in the brain. And then there's hemorrhagic stroke, which is caused by a bleed in an artery. When you have bleeding in your brain is a hemorrhagic stroke. Stroke is an emergency. Every minute counts. A lot of people have this posted all over the place. Face, does one side of the face droop? Ask the person to smile. Arms, is one arm weak or numb? Ask the person to raise both arms. Does one drift downward? Speech, is the speech slurred? Ask the person to repeat simple sentences. Is the sentence repeated correctly? And then time, if the person shows any of these symptoms, call 911 or go to the hospital immediately. So the acronym is FAST. Problems associated with CVA or stroke. Hemiparesis is weakness on one side of the body. Hemiplegia is paralysis on one side of the body. So plegia means paralysis. Paresis means weakness. So that's two different things. Expressive aphasia, S pertains to speech. I know we talk about phagia with the G is swallowing. Phagia with the S has to do with speech. And expressive aphasia would be an inability to express their needs, and receptive aphasia would be an inability to understand what others are saying to them. And we talked about you have the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So if somebody has a stroke on the right side of their brain, it will be the left side of the body that is affected. Problems associated with strokes: one-sided neglect, loss of ability to tell where the affected body parts are. They may just kind of drag behind them when they try to get up. Inappropriate emotional responses. It's not uncommon for them, to be crying for no reason. Loss of bowel or bladder function often happens with a stroke. Dysphagia with a G is difficulty swallowing, and hemianopsia is loss of vision, one half of the visual field. That is a video, and I will post that on the video links under the content in D2L. Disorders of the nervous system. Parkinson's is an example. It is a progressive disorder that causes part of the brain to degenerate. Progressive, which means it gets worse with time, caused from lack of production of dopamine in the brain, causes tremor, rigid muscle or mask-like face, shuffling gait, and pill rolling, like they're rolling a pill between their fingers is a common behavior that they do. So their gait is a little different, how they stand. They will have a forward tilt of their trunk. When they walk, their arms don't really swing like a normal person's, and they shuffle. So those are signs of Parkinson's. And there's a video on Parkinson's that I will post as well. Disorders of the nervous system continued. We have multiple sclerosis. It is also a progressive disorder. It is loss of the myelin, or the protective cover of the nerves. So you see the top picture, the myelin sheath is intact, and the bottom, it's starting to demyelination is what it's called. Without protective covering, nerves cannot send clear messages to the brain. Multiple sclerosis is usually diagnosed in young adulthood. The cause is unknown. It is a very unpredictable disease. It has various symptoms, including fatigue, poor balance, and trouble walking, and there is no cure for multiple sclerosis. I'm going to stop there.